Hello, my name is Alexander Mold. My advisor is Giselle Cummings, and today I'll be discussing my grant proposal, which is socioeconomic factors involved in seasonal variation of influenza incidence in hospitalized patients in New York City from 2020 until 2023. Some basic parts of the introduction. So it is a single-stranded RNA virus that hospitalizes between 140 and 800,000 people annually in the US. In New York City, they see an average of 43,000 cases, which makes up about 50% of the average cases in New York State itself. Additionally, New York City also has a large variation in socioeconomics across the various boroughs and across various zip codes within those boroughs. So this study will go and examine the role of various socioeconomic factors in annual incidence in New York City. So this will include things like zip code, the type of home, education. Now, a full questionnaire will be available in Appendix A of the grant proposal, as well as the final slide of this PowerPoint. So in terms of zip code, the average income is important because this is a major determining factor of people's ability to access care, as well as a ability to kind of access education as well. And in terms of air quality, this is a way to ward out any sort of potential for confounding, because neighborhoods with lower air quality tend to, on average, have less income, at least in New York City. In terms of the type of home, we're looking at two major factors: how many people are in the home and what kind of home they are in. So naturally, we think of apartments when it comes to New York City, but there are also houses and multifamily homes when you get out into the other boroughs, mostly Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn and Queens. In terms of education, this is both factors that prevent the spread of the actual person-to-person contact, as well as getting a flu shot in the first place. Now, we'll be looking at both the personal and the family education, as this is the way to determine how well the family is in terms of their ability to prevent themselves from getting influenza. So the inclusion criteria, the only ones that will be included are hospitalized patients in the Montefiore Hospital Network, where I will probably be doing my residency, in patients that are greater than 18 years of age and living in New York City, as defined by their zip code, with a laboratory confirmed case of influenza. Additionally, they can only be counted if they are within the CDC-defined beginning and end dates of influenza season, which is usually sometime in October until usually sometime in March, but that may vary based on the season. Excluded are anyone not in this time frame, anyone not living in New York City, or anyone younger than 18 years of age. So the analysis of data, we'll be doing regression analysis of all of the variables, and we'll be comparing the various factors by chi-squared. So each factor will be individually demonstrated to show its potential influence in influenza incidence, as well as cumulatively how likely the number of factors themselves are to play in influenza incidence within the city. So this is going to be described in both a graph and a table format. So success and anticipated results. Success is defined as completion of the questionnaire, which is the appendix, at a rate of 40% of the total influenza patients in the Montefiore Hospital Network. Based on approximate averages, I would suspect that somewhere around 700 patients will likely be in total in the 5 Montefiore hospitals. And at 40%, I would suspect an average of about 300 patients responding. In terms of the results, I suspect that vulnerable populations, when it comes to socioeconomic factors, will likely have a linear relationship to influenza incidence, wherein the more factors you have in terms of vulnerability, the more likely you are to develop influenza. I also suspect that population density, as defined by the type of structure that they are in and the number of people living in that structure, will have the highest likelihood of influenza incidence, and that education will also prevent people from seeking vaccination, which would in turn cause a higher likelihood of somebody developing influenza. I am also looking into air quality because, as I said before, it might have a confounding factor, and I want to adjust for that if possible. Age and gender are also going to be adjusted for as well. So the timeline and the dissemination of information. So beginning in July of 2020, and the final date of all data collection with the final report will be available by June of 2023. So I am going to seek IRB approval, not because I feel that there's any sensitive information, but because I want to prevent any possibility of issues further down the line. And the reason I feel IRB expedited review is necessary is because there's no harm in this study that is known, and the gender, age, and zip code are the only three identifying factors. In terms of the data collection, so that will be done during the CDC defined periods of influenza epidemic, so roughly October until roughly March, and the analysis will be performed concurrently with the epidemic and will be finished by May or within about a month of the end of the influenza season. And in terms of the dissemination of finding, it'll be first made available within the hospital network, and later results will be made available to the New York City Department of Public Health. These are my sources. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Thank you for your time. And the next slide, if you want to pause, is the questionnaire as it is typed up. And this is the form that we'll be using. Thank you and have a good day.